Jungkook's tears reveal Jimin's true condition. Army can't believe this happened. That morning was supposed to be a normal routine at the 5th Division Military Training Center, South Korea. However, the world suddenly seemed to stop spinning when shocking news spread quickly among the barracks. Park Jimin, a member of BTS, fainted and was rushed to a military hospital. But that wasn't the only thing that shook the soldiers and fans. What was even more astonishing was that Jungkook, usually known to be strong and calm, was seen crying for the first time since they underwent military service. The question, what exactly happened behind the walls of that hospital? Jimin, known for his dedication and discipline, had apparently shown signs of extreme fatigue for the past few days. According to an internal source, Jimin insisted on participating in the entire series of physical training, even though his body was showing symptoms of decreased endurance. But what makes this situation even more complicated is that he didn't officially tell anyone, not even his coach. The reason? He didn't want to burden Jungkook, his best friend and fellow idol who is now in the same training squad with him. When Jimin collapsed during the morning roll call, the atmosphere became chaotic. Medical officers moved quickly, taking his limp body to a special treatment room. Jungkook, who was not far from him at the time, immediately left his line and followed the small military ambulance that took him to the clinic. An eyewitness mentioned that Jungkook refused to return to training before knowing his best friend's condition. The crying happened shortly after Jimin entered the treatment room. Behind the curtains of the military hospital, a soldier known to be tough finally collapsed emotionally. Not much sound, not many words. Only teary eyes and hands tightly gripping Jimin's cold wrist. "I will not return to the barracks before I know he can wake up," Jungkook said softly to a nurse. That sentence shook everyone who heard it. Jimin's condition was reported to show symptoms of overexertion syndrome, a serious medical condition due to extreme fatigue and excessive physical stress. Although not in the life-threatening category, the treatment must be intensive. Doctors advised Jimin to undergo a minimum 2-week recovery period without strenuous physical activity. However, what is more touching is Jungkook's decision. He asked for official permission to remain in the hospital with Jimin. The commander of the 5th Division, Colonel Jimin, was initially hesitant. However, after receiving a report from the medical team and considering Jungkook's psychological condition, which was very attached to his best friend, the request was granted. Private John will undergo limited training while accompanying his teammate at the medical facility, Colonel Han said in an official announcement read in the division's main hall. This decision triggered applause from the other soldiers who began to see that greatness of heart is stronger than any muscle. However, outside the walls of the barracks, Army began to worry. There were no new uploads from BTS's official account. There was no statement from HYBE or Big Hit Music. Cyberspace began to speculate, was Jimin's condition really that bad? And is it true that Jungkook cried until he had to be absent from training? A senior staff member from the agency finally leaked to local media, anonymously, that HYBE's CEO, Bang Si-hyuk, had contacted the military personally. He didn't want to make a fuss, but he was very emotional when he heard the news. All he said to us was, "Make sure they recover together. Don't separate them." A statement that shows that even their leader realizes that the bond between these two friends is more than just colleagues. In a military condition full of discipline and limitations, Jimin and Jungkook show the most humane side of what is called global idols. No cameras, no stage, no cheering fans, just two young soldiers struggling to take care of each other. Even a doctor who treated Jimin said, "I have never seen a patient who has been more cared for like this by his friend." Jungkook even refused dinner twice just because Jimin was not fully conscious. Now, the focus is no longer on a stage comeback or recording new songs. All attention is focused on two things: when Jimin recovers, and how Jungkook will continue to survive accompanying his best friend. Not a few fans sent letters to military headquarters, hoping for a glimmer of light, or just to show their moral support. the silence from the official side has indeed led to various speculations. But inside the walls of that hospital, the real story is unfolding, about friendship, sincerity, and sacrifice. No need for spotlights to make this story shine. Enough with the sound of Jungkook's footsteps in the hospital corridor every night, enough with the grip of his hand when Jimin lay weak, and enough with the tears that fell silently. ARMY may still be wondering, will the two of them return to training as usual? Will Jimin's condition fully recover? Until this article was written, there was no certainty. But one thing is very clear, in a harsh world, they have shown a rare tenderness. Jungkook's tears are not a sign of weakness, but proof that loyalty is still alive behind the spotlight of fame. And for Jimin, who is now still lying in a military hospital bed, one thing is certain, he is not alone. Not today, and not forever. Jungkook's tears, which reportedly broke in the silent corridor of the military hospital, right next to Jimin's bed, were not just ordinary tears. It was a moment that shook the hearts of millions of armies around the world. But let's stop for a moment. Did all this really happen? Or are we being dragged into a vortex of narratives that are deliberately formed to go viral? Imagine two of the most powerful names in the history of the global entertainment industry, now no longer standing on stage with spotlights, but lying in silence behind the high walls of the military. That scene, if true, clearly touches a deep side of humanity. However, as short videos circulate on TikTok showing someone resembling Jimin being supported, as well as snippets of a man's voice resembling Jungkook saying, "I will stay here," we need to ask, to what extent are these visuals and sounds true? Did the recordings really come from a military hospital? Who recorded it? And why could it be spread, even though South Korean military protocols are very strict about information from within? If it is true that Jimin's condition has deteriorated, why has there been no official statement from HYBE labels? Why hasn't BTS's official account on Weverse or Twitter provided any clarification? Is this for security reasons, or because it never happened? Furthermore, we must ask, is this narrative about two friends taking care of each other in extreme conditions really based on facts, or is it too perfect to be true? Are we, as fans, starting to prefer emotional stories over truths that may be much simpler and less dramatic? The sources of information used in this article, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, to fan forums, do give the impression that something did happen. But, remember, impression does not always mean truth. Pieces of images can be manipulated. Sound clips can be edited. Narratives can be rewritten to suit public emotions. So, how do we distinguish between empathy and manipulation? Are we really witnessing the human side of Jungkook and Jimin? Or is this just an emotional scenario designed to maintain media and public attention during their military service? This reflection is important. As smart fans, we must not only rely on love and trust for idols, but also have to maintain critical reasoning. We must not become victims of digital sensationalism, even if it comes from the community we trust ourselves. Also need to ask, who benefits from this narrative? Is this just a pure story about two soldiers supporting each other in difficult times? Or is there a public communication strategy behind it? Is HYBE silent not because they don't know, but precisely because they are letting rumors develop in order to form a new emotional image that is more relatable for global fans? Some fan bases even shared screenshots of emails from the military hospital that reportedly confirmed Jimin's presence in the treatment room. But, how valid is the email? Has its authenticity been verified? And why did only one account get it? Why haven't major South Korean media released an official investigative report? This is the time for us all to ask more deeply. Are we involved in the real experience of two humans who are struggling? Or is this just a very well-written story, then spread by an algorithm that knows that emotion is the best-selling commodity today? Are we being witnesses, or are we being tools? That doesn't mean we have to stop caring. On the contrary, our concern must be accompanied by vigilance. Don't let our love for Jungkook and Jimin make us believe in unverified information. Because if it turns out that this story is just a fabrication, wouldn't that hurt the trust we've built over the years? Thank you for reading. Voice your opinion in the comments column. Is this a touching story or a neatly hidden manipulation?